At ease, pilots. My name is Lieutenant Commander Mr. Everything, and I will be your instructor for these blocks of instruction. This first block of instruction is know your cockpit, HUD, MFDs, and views. It is basically everything that you will need to learn about what you see in your cockpit and how to evaluate what kind of information they are providing to you. We will be learning this block of instruction in my Sabre Comet. This is the standard spacecraft of the 1st Naval Aerospace Squadron, which is located right there behind you. We're going to go over the Sabre cockpit at this time, so just go ahead and enter your Sabre. Alright guys, I brought up the keyboard so you can see what I am doing. I am interacting with mouse and keyboard. And to enter your cockpit, you have 3 options. When you see the interaction or the entry indicator, which shows the ladder and the circle and the dot, you can press your F key, Foxtrot, and it'll give you 3 options. It'll give you the enter pilot seat, open just the ladder, or open just the pilot canopy. Now obviously we're going to want to enter the pilot seat. I am not going to select it. I'm going to let go of the F key. I do want to let you know that when you approach your ship and you are facing in the correct direction, you know you are, the F key, you do not need to select the first option. It will automatically be selected. And if you just tap the F key, it will automatically select the first option. Alright, so now the topic of this is know your MFDs and know your cockpit. Alright, so now we are in our Sabre Comet and we have a number of different MFDs located here. These are what are called multi-function displays. But the very first thing you're going to want to do is press your F key to be able to look around your cockpit. You will see that you have your exit on your left side right there, because that is where your ladder is located. You can press the exit there, or you can press and hold Y like you normally do exit a seat. By looking down, you will see your throttle and you will see your stick. Right beneath your stick, between your stick and your seat, is your ejection pull lever. If you pull your ejection pull lever, the canopy will be ejected and you will be ejected in your seat into space or the atmosphere, where you will have to be collected by a search and recovery. There are these knobs here and there and here and there. So if you were to select these 2 knobs here, one is your power knob, the other one is your flight ready knob. If you hit flight ready, then everything in your ship will power on. These switches beneath here are for your opening the pilot canopy, opening the ladder. All right, so those are the switches and knobs that you can use while your ship is powered off. Let's go ahead and set your ship to flight ready. You can also bind these to hotkeys, which I recommend. I bind personally powering on my ship to Papa or P. Now, as your ship powers on, you'll start to see your MFDs light up. You'll also see the power of your ship increase, plus you'll see your shields increasing. So let's work our way around this video is going to take a minute because there is a lot of information to absorb. You have a lot of different icons, a lot of different indicators in your cockpit, and this is the beginning of your flight school with the 1st Naval Aerospace Squadron, and so you need to know this piece of information. If you are a new pilot in the UEE, you need to know this if you are going to succeed. All right, so let's take a look. We're going to start with our MFDs. Okay, which are considered multi-function displays. You have 4 of them. To look around your cockpit, you could go to Free Look, which is by tapping the Z key, Z, and that lets you just look around using your mouse freely with no control over your ship. It's just moving your head, right? So you're just looking around. If you tap Z, you will go back to your control method where you are actually attempting to control your ship. You can see the 3-pointed crosshair beneath the 4-pointed crosshair. The 3-pointed crosshair, the one I'm moving currently with my mouse, is the attempted direction of flight. So wherever you point that, your Sabre will attempt to fly in that direction. The 4-pointed crosshair is actually where your nose of your ship is facing, and that is the direction that your guns will fire. Okay, that's important. So let's go back to these MFDs. Now, something you can do without Free Look is by holding down the F key, holding it. Now, when you move your mouse, you're actually in Free Look, but you're kind of in what's called an interactive free look. And so you can use your mouse wheel to increase your zoom or decrease your zoom. And when your mouse is pointed over an MFD, let's do something more extreme like this one. If I roll my wheel forward, it will zoom in on that MFD as such. You can zoom out, you can move around. So if you're looking at this MFD, you can use your mouse wheel. It'll automatically center on that MFD and zoom in. This will also allow you to interact with, you can see the power wheel. I'm able to interact with it using my mouse pointer. I can adjust various settings with my mouse wheel. I could switch to stealth, or I could switch to my items. Okay, the reason why it is called an MFD is because there are tabs. So like, let's say this MFD here where I have no target selected, I could select this as a menu, and you see there is a scroll wheel here. The problem with that is if you use your mouse wheel to scroll, it also zooms you in and zooms you out. So what I recommend doing is zooming into a comfortable level, then actually grabbing and dragging the slide bar with your mouse. That way you won't zoom in and zoom out. Okay, let's take a look at some of your different options as your MFDs. Okay, we're going to do it on an upper MFD just because it's easier. We'll go to the menu. That gives us our 8 MFDs. and you will take a look. The first one is your target status. So if you have a target selected, it will show you their shields. It will also, their quartered shields. It will also show you their health of their hull, and that'll be based on colors. So you'll have like a yellow and a red, and then it'll disappear when destroyed. Shields, that is your personal shields. That's your shields. And it shows that we've got 100% on all 4 sectors. And those are the 2 shields emitters that I have equipped as the FR66. Now, for some reason, if you needed to, you can turn them off. If your power plant is hurting for power, you can disable them. That way, more power can be provided to your other items. Plus, it shows how much power they're drawing, how much health they have. So if they get damaged, it will show wear and tear. Over the course of your career, wear will increase, and your their output or their functionality will be decreased. How much heat they generate, and you will use your coolers to dissipate that heat. If for whatever reason your coolers are damaged and your heat gets over your cooling ability, it could also increase the wear. Okay, so these are long-term things that your maintenance crew will need more than you as a pilot would need. But turning it on and off because of the power draw off of your power plant could be important if you were lacking in power and you need to make an emergency landing. Okay, back to MFDs. Now, another way you can access your MFDs. Remember, I pressed F and I looked and I zoomed, but holding F, I could press A and it'll make me look directly at that MFD. I could press D and I'll look at that MFD. Okay, A and D looks left and right, and then S brings me down to the lower MFDs, and W brings me up to the upper MFDs. So if I wanted to press, look at a lower right, I could go SD, and it'll take me to lower. Okay, but WA will bring me to this MFD. Now, let's go ahead and look at another one. That was shields. Now, let's take a look at power. Okay, through power, plus, again, we will be talking about power management in a future video. But you can adjust your power management here, which is not how much power is being allocated to these 3 subjects, but the amount of recharge that each of those items have, like your weapons, your shields, and your thrusters. Now remember, we're under power. If you go to items while under power, you will have all of your items, your coolers, your missiles, your weapons, your shields, your thrusters, each individual thruster plus your jump drive. It's all in there. And you should be able to adjust different power levels, but we'll talk about that again in the power management video. So that was power. Now we go to self status. Well, obviously what that is yourself. These buttons down here allow you to look at your ship from different angles. Like if you want to look at it from each side, you can, if you're trying to examine, you know, why it looks the way it does, or the damage. And then you've got that, just reverses it. I personally like the top down look. We got missile. When you go to missiles, it shouldn't be missiles, it's weapons, because you have guns and missiles. Okay, so your system shows that I've got 4 missiles on board, plus it's showing me the guns and how much power they're drawing. And this number right here, the 0 and the 1, tells me which button I'm pressing to fire those weapons. And this at the end tells me that I've got 2 guns on each of these button presses. So my left mouse, my right mouse. We go to guns, and it pretty much shows you that. You got these group 1, group 2. They are turned on. You can, if you want, turn them off if you need the power for other reasons. And the only real reason when you would need that is if you have a damaged power plant and it's not providing you with the proper power. Okay, this is how much ammo they have. It's not showing you exactly how much ammo they have. It's showing you how much ammo is stored in the capacitor. If you can increase and decrease this using your recharge power management, which we will discuss in a future video. This shows how much power each gun draws, how much health each gun has. So as guns get damaged, their damage output will be reduced. This is their wear, which can be repaired by your technicians. And this is how much coolant or heat they would generate. Let's talk about missiles. Okay, missiles. You can change the priority of which missiles you want to fire, what type of missiles they are, EM or cross signature. They're proximity missiles. You know, they blow up when they get near their enemy, and how many of each of them you have. So when you swap out your missiles or group them in different ways, this will change. Going back to menu, we go to comms. Okay, this is how you would normally communicate with other ships and also the landing services. And then we have heat. This is a good indication of how much heat devices are generating. If your devices are starting to overheat, or if you decide to overclock something to make it more efficient and it starts to overheat, this is where you can identify that and correct it. If you want to suppress some heat, you can. This is the Sabre Comet, which is what I'm in, and the Sabre Comet is a stealth fighter, so it has suppress IR, and that'll come into play with scanning and pinging with your radar and other sensors, and we will go over that in another training session. All right, so there are your 4 MFDs. In the center of your MFDs, you have these warning lights, and these warning lights will light on or turn on like when your power is starting to overheat, or if you have low power, this will light up. If your weapons are getting overheated or your thrusters are overheated. So these will let you know when you're definitely overheating or power is low. When your shields go down, this will come on. Radar lock. That's not when you have a lock. That's when someone else has a lock on you. If a missile is inbound, you should get a missile warning. If your quantum is failing, you should get a quantum fail. Proximity warning is when you're flying close to an object where you might actually collide, and when your coolers are failing. So hopefully you'll never see any of these come on, but I guarantee you will see all of them come on at some point during your career. While you are powered on, you will have an engine on or engine off switch. Now let's start looking at, those are all your MFDs and switches. Now let's look at your HUD. Your HUD, okay, one more thing on the MFDs. You have a graphical display of your radar directly in the center where you can move this around. I'm holding my left mouse button around so you can take a look. Depending on how you like the angle, this will let you know the direction, and based on your wings, okay, this circle is equal to the plane of your wings. This shows that they are above you, this because it's above the plane, and if it goes below the plane, it should be below it, obviously. All right, so now let's talk about the HUD. The HUD is everything on your glass, basically. You'll see your HUD is not mounted to your helmet, because I'm looking over here. It's being projected as a hologram by your ship above your MFDs. So yeah, you can do a free look and you'll still have your HUD, your heads-up display displayed in front of you. Okay, so let's go clockwise, starting at the bottom left. Okay, so right there you have your gear indicator. So when you take off, if it's lit up fully like they all are, right? You're coupled, your ESP and your gear are all lit up. That means your gear is down and your wings are folded. When it goes gray and it's no longer lit up, then that tells you that your gear are retracted and your wings are folded. Same thing with coupled and ESP and your VTOL thrusters. Okay, right above that, now what I'll do is in post-production, I will add arrows to this so that you can follow along to where I am pointing. But directly above that, you have what's called the thruster bar, and you have a maximum safe thrust indicator. So your thruster, all your thrusters can fire up to that bar with safety, and they won't degrade or damage themselves by not going over. But if you allow it to, it can, or if you force your ship to, the thrust can exceed that, especially while boosting, and if it does, it could damage your thrusters. But sometimes that's the only way to get away, out of harm's way. Okay, next to the thruster, to the left is invisible, but right there you see there is a boost bar. That boost bar it's at 100% when invisible, and when it's used to boost, and I am pressing the shift key to boost, it uses up boost fuel, and after a moment of cooldown, it starts to recharge automatically, because it is the air intakes in the front of the ship are pulling in hydrogen from the atmosphere and getting replenishing your boost fuel. Next to that, you have a velocity indicator. The box just to the right bottom, which is moving right now, is your what's called a limiter, and that's the maximum amount of thrust that you can provide at any given time. If you are over into the red, all that means is you're going so fast that you can't turn. Your turn speed is greatly reduced when in the red. They used to call this blue area combat speed, and basically it allows you to maneuver at your full capability. The number in the box here lets you know how fast you are currently traveling. So if you're traveling at 1,300 meters per second, that would show 1,300. The triangle, or the little arrow at the bottom, the less than symbol, is currently what your thrust is at. Currently it is at 0. So if you start to thrust forward, sideways, up and down, that bar will go up and you will get your velocity will increase. And it basically is just telling you where you have your thrust set. If you press C for cruise control, which I'm not doing, if you press C for cruise control, your thrust will go up. That bar, that triangle, that little arrow, will gradually increase until it gets inside the box. And then once it's inside the box, it will stop. And then that's where your cruise will be set at. If you press C again, then it will gradually go back to 0 because all of the thrust has been turned off, and it'll settle back to 0. And then you can press W and S to increase or decrease your throttle. If you double tap W, it should put you at 100% thrust, and if you double tap S, it should put you at 0. Okay, so we're going clockwise. So there is a little circle and a dot right there. That circle and dot should be your velocity direction indicator. So it should let you know in which direction you are traveling, not which direction you're facing. So hypothetically, if you are traveling very fast in one direction and you turn around, you will still be traveling in the old direction, which is now to your rear, and it should indicate that. Up at the top here, let's go to free look. There we go. Right there, you have your emissions indicators, which is telling you how bright of a target you are for observation. So you have like a heat indicator, like how much heat you're generating, how much cross section you're generating, and how much power you're generating. And power and heat and cross section is how sensors will detect you. So the larger those are, the easier and the further they will be able to detect you. Right below that, and we'll get into that in a future video. So below that you have your compass, which is like your north, south, east, and west, and azimuth based on planetary poles. Okay, so now continuing on to over here, let's start with that G-safe right there. That basically tells you that your G-safe is on, which means your ship will try not to outturn your ability to stay conscious. So your ship is going to try to keep you from blacking out or redding out. So it's going to prevent certain types of maneuvers. If you turn G-safe off, your ship will be able to make sharper turns, but you'll have the risk of blacking out or redding out. Now, just to the right of that, you have your altitude. Now, that altitude indicator says that I'm at 79,330 meters, which is pretty high up. But we are on Orison, and so this is a city in the clouds. Above that, it just says altitude in meters. Okay, now to the bottom left there, you have hydrogen fuel and quantum fuel. This tells you how much of your gas tank, what is it fuel? Is it full? Is it empty? Is it halfway or whatever? Right of that, you're going to see decoys and noise. Above that, you'll have all of your weapons, your individual weapons. And it will show you the numbers / other number is how many shots you have before it needs to be recharged. So you can fire a group, and then while that group is recharging, you can fire another group, or you can fire them all, and then when they're depleted, you have to wait for them to recharge before they can be fired again. That is what is called a capacitor. Okay, now the difference between a decoy and noise. This will be discussed in combat tactics, but a decoy is basically a flare, a heat decoy, and noise is like chaff. It'll be like metallic flakes that fool radar locks. Now, right in the middle of your screen, to the left and right of your crosshair, you will see the ladder. The ladder is currently at 0, but it can be at +5 or -5. It can go all the way up to 90 degrees. Those are degrees that your nose is elevated above the horizon. So if you go 90 degrees, you are facing straight up. If you go -90, you're facing straight down. Now, if you go more than 90 degrees straight up, well, you're no longer, it'll go from 90 to like 85 because you are no longer straight up. You're now just at an angle. You might be upside down, you might be inverted, but you're still only at an angle. When you go into the negatives, it's the same thing. If you go -90, you're straight down, but if you go more than -90, you'll just be upside down, but you'll be at like -85 or -70 or whatever. When leaving an atmosphere, now this is going to be part of basic flight, map basics, and waypoints, but I'll touch on it right now. When you fly out of an atmosphere, I don't recommend going to +90 degrees. Okay, your ship is going to want to go straight up, but due to gravity and lift of your airfoils, you are not going to be going straight up for one reason. You'll be relying 100% on your thruster to counter gravity, where I recommend somewhere between 75 to 80 degrees. That way you get lift off your wings and you get thrust. It's some pilots would say only 15 degrees up is all you would need to climb, but because of the futuristic ability of your ship, I would say it's way better than that. I recommend 65, 70, 80%. 80 degrees, which we'll discuss in flight mechanics in a bit, but there's no real right or wrong way. Okay, now as a combat pilot, you will not have what's called mining mode in your HUD, but you will have a radar mode to send out a ping, just a radar pulse. Kind of like a submarine would send out a sonar pulse. You just tap the tab key, and then you send out a pulse. And if there's anything that, free look. If there's anything that needs to be revealed to you, like a mineable mineral or a ship in hiding or a minefield, that would be indicated by your ping. If you want to switch to radar mode, you press the V or Victor key. Okay, you can see your scanning mode pops up, and this is keyed to your look. Okay, now you would look at a specific object, which we don't have one in front of us right now, but if I was to look at an object and I was to center it on my crosshair there, you will see a signal strength bar, which looks like a semicircle following that dotted line. Based on the signal of your target, how much information is it putting out? Is it extremely hot? Do you have a good cross section? Is its EM up? If it is, your signal strength will be high, and it will be a bar, and hopefully it goes all the way up to max. The Sabre has a very good sensor. It can detect quite a bit pretty easily. Now, if you leave your crosshair on your subject matter for just a few seconds, the signal strength will go to max almost instantly, but then the scan progress, you have to wait for your computer to evaluate what it's looking at, and you will see a scan progress bar starting at the bottom, gradually increasing until it gets to the top. When it does, there will be information displayed just to the right of your scan progress. It will reveal information like the name of the ship, the name of the pilot, what kind of weapons they have, what kind of engine they have, what kind of coolers, what kind of cargo they're carrying, any other passengers, or basically you can receive a variety of different information, and I recommend trying that out when you get an opportunity. Pressing V will get you out of scan mode. Now, in your options, you can link your radar ping to only work while you're in scan mode. That's your personal preference. And that concludes class number 1, getting to know your Sabre cockpit, HUD, MFDs, and your views. Our next block of instruction will be how to take off, land, and communicate with your flight controller. Dismissed.